Good morning. Who am I? Welcome to my little podcast. What's it all about? I believe that we walk around in a world where we project the world around us and then we react to our own projection. And then over and over again, we keep repeating patterns that we don't actually like very much. And I would like to shed some light on this. I believe I understand what's happening to a point, to my limited understanding, but it's the kind of thing that we could all understand. I'm not saying that I am more special than any of you. I'm saying that we are all so special. And if we would but understand the divine matrix that we are swimming in, that we are embedded in, that we are a part of, that we are mutually interacting with, and if we would understand its mechanics better, its energetics, its psychology, its dynamics, if we could understand it better, then we would get better outcomes as humanity. And I think that that's the biggest deal that I'm going to be talking about. Who are we as humanity? Who am I? Who am I? I ask that question because I am a cell in the body of humanity. From that perspective, we're all standing in the same place, even though we are completely different. We are utterly diverse, each and every one of us. Each and every one of us has different parents. I had totally different parents than my other full siblings had. I was the baby of the family. By the time I came along, my parents were exhausted. They were looking at other things. They quit. They weren't paying attention to me quite the same way. It was, yeah, we love you, get on with it. You're fine. And we all grow up different because of it. We're all from different corners of the world. I It's funny, if I went back to my old hometown and started asking people about the people that went to my high school, the people that are this, even though now, when you start to get into the same religion, you can start finding people with experiences that you can relate to. Oh yeah, I remember the bake sales and the road shows and the volleyball in the court next door to the uh, but we all had different lives. We are all individually different, but collectively now there is something in common about our experience. We've been tracking it for, well, we call it history. That's when we started tracking it. And the reason that we're doing it is not because prehistory is not important, but because history is going to be enough for us to understand ourselves. And as soon as we understand ourselves, then prehistory is that's when we're going to start really going for the prehistory to really understand where this movie has gone. Who are we? Who are we? The answer is we are humanity. Humanity. And that really matters. It really, really matters. And each and every one of us, like it or not, doesn't matter. We are humanity. We are a super organism unto this planet. And whether we think individually or whether we think collectively, we are this creature. We are humanity. And questions about what it means to be humanity are are front and center right now, whether people realize it or not. That's what the question really is concerning this authoritarian moment that the United States is having, the Constitution versus this authoritarian moment. So it's like you recognize what the Constitution was even made for. The Constitution was designed by our founding fathers in order to safeguard our government against the threat of the authoritarian, which is exactly what King George was. It's what the king is. The king is an authoritarian who says, I will say, and then it will be so. And they started pushing back against that in 1215. And this king does not want to hear from Parliament. And I'm telling you, he's going to get another Agincourt. This is history. You got to hear the spirit of history and what this is. All of these are echoes of who we are. The important thing to look at as you look through history is not the interesting part about it is who are we? And the whole time we are the same, but we iterate through history differently. Why? Well, who am I? Who am I? And I would be delighted to shed some light upon this question. I draw from many fine, fine teachers, and you will know these teachers. You will be able to go out and research these teachers. People like Paul Levy and his work with Wetiko. He comes from a personal experience with a father deeply afflicted with this affliction, deeply affected by this affliction, we could say. He had his own schizophrenic crack up, and then his salvation was a combination of Jungian psychology, Buddhism, and quantum physics. And then he wrote books that blend the concepts, and it's all very fascinating, very cool. And when you look at him and you think about, what are you saying? What are you saying? What are you looking at? And then you spot what it's very illuminating to your own personality, to your own self, to your own inner workings. Eckhart Tolle. I got into Eckhart Tolle for a while. Went to a personal seminar, a whole week long of Eckhart Tolle. That was very laid back. Very interesting, not particularly cerebral. He's all about presence. Presence. And it's interesting because the intellectual mind often ignores presence. But presence is actually your higher self. It's your other self. And Eckhart does a thing where he just abides in his higher self, and people, flock. There was 700 people in the audience that just sat with him for hours, just being with him. You know, he said things and he was funny, but it wasn't a high energy ticket. It was just presence. It was quite interesting. Um, Gary Zukav and his work, he's another interesting one. Study religions, ponder religions, think about your own religion. You were likely raised in a world where some religion dominated, and if you are in the United States and your family didn't have a religion, the general religion of the United States is mostly Christianity, although we are a godless people to a great extent because we haven't figured out how to blend the intellectual and the spiritual fully. Part of this show is going to be discussing that very question, that very conundrum, the blending of the spiritual and the religious. Is science true or is religion true? Well, I'm here to tell you they're both true. They're both true, and they are both, you could look at either one of them from the wrong direction and see them both as false, too. But let's don't talk about what's false. Let's talk about what's true. Let's don't talk about what isn't. Let's talk about what is. What is? Who are we? Not who aren't we? Who are we? Who am I? Name of the show. Who am I? I keep forgetting that the microphone is on this side, and I'm like, no, I should be leaning this way. Who am I? Who am I? And what does it mean to be a human being? The reason that it is important in this moment is because MAGA is challenging this. And not just MAGA, but the administration. Now, I don't want to pin all of this on MAGA because they're doing something that is, well, they are resonating with the grievance. And that is what has given President Trump his power. The core of people who continue to resonate with the grievance and the blame. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. And they're like counting on this person to ferret out who is responsible for all the things that are pissing you off and bring them to account. You know, get rid of the worst of the worst, and then the world will be better again, right? Let's just subtract this group or subtract that group, or let's get rid of those people, or maybe those people are to blame, or those people over there, and the blame game is the problem, the outward projection of, instead of recognizing who we are and what the actual pattern is. Because we all joined this movie well into, I mean, we walked in, it's been going on for a long time. Even just the history part of it has going on for arguably 10,000 years, 30,000 years, 100,000 years. Depends on when you want to start checking it from. Are we going from those cave paintings, in France? Are we going from, the beginnings of Homo erectus and whatnot in Africa 3 million years ago? Or are we going from when we got genetically modified and became Cro-Magnon man, which they don't call it that anymore. It's anatomically modern humans. Is that when history starts? When did we? This movie has been going on since the Big Bang banged, and we're now. The story I'm talking about, though, is the story of humans, because I am talking about humanity. What does it mean to be a part of humanity? How does our equipment work? What is this divine matrix that I find myself in, this field of connected energy and information that I am a part of? How does it work? I'm swimming in it. I'm made of it. How does it work? I have thoughts in my mind. I have feelings in my being. What's causing that? What's the object of the exercise? We go on about our business like these questions don't matter. We just bang on based on the information, the feedback we're getting from our physical senses, and then we just assume a world around us, often without thinking about it without re-examining our beliefs about ourselves and others. And because of that, the world that we live in often is a creation that we are creating it by default because we are creating it. The world is not just happening to us, we are creating it. So, how are we creating it? And how are we getting what we're getting? And how could we adjust it? Is it just, I am a victim, I am just flotsam on a sea of on a flowing current that I have no control over and that I have no say in? Is that what's happening? As I speak these words, I get visions in my mind of the actual picture. What's happening, and if you can get your imagination to line up with the reality of the world around you, and then actually, I dream of how amazing it would be to then connect with people directly from this level of understanding. I can see this, and if I could connect with other people with this level of understanding, because I know they are out there. There's tons of you out there. You're thinking these thoughts in your mind, in your quiet places. You're thinking all of these pure positive thoughts. And you don't know what to do with them because you look around in your actual world and you're like, well, that's not the world I see. That's not reality. If I want to face reality, I've got to turn away from these pure positive thoughts. Well, no, you just have to understand who you are. Your equipment that has various aspects, various parts of yourself that that interact together, that that work in harmony. So we're going to talk about your equipment and the meaning of probably the most important um, result of your equipment is your emotions. What are the meaning of human emotions? I got this frog in my throat. I wish I knew how to fix it. If I had a cup of tea, that would be great, but I don't have a cup of tea. So I'm just going to keep clearing my throat. So sorry. The meaning of our human emotions is because we are two selves. We are a great flow of energy and information. And at our source level, we are the whole thing. But at our individual level, we are sort of a constricted aperture of focus, a specificity, like a magnifying lens. Can when you a microscope can see can peer into a highly specific world that is very small. But if you're looking into a microscope, you can see, amoebas really well. But from this position, it's very hard to see the moons of Jupiter. It, your focusing aperture is capable of looking in both directions, and your small self is capable of looking in all directions. Your macro self is getting all of the information, and your micro self is the one who is choking it down to a specific place so that you can highly specialize somewhere on the grid. That's what you're doing. And we're all doing that. And we're supposed to all be doing it for humanity. Each and every one of us, a specialist in their own way, a specialist in their family, their garden, their village, their bowling team, their their local charities, their, whatever. We're all supposed to be specialists in our own little place, but we're all supposed to be smoothly interacting with one another. Now, why don't we? Why don't we? Um, and why do we keep devolving into projects like Project Project Authoritarian Psychosis going on in Washington? Um, I started talking about America when we first started because I believe that that Project American Constitution is really an important thing. And you can see now, finally, I see, oh, that's why the law. The law is meant for really big thing. This really big project. The law is going to um, justify itself. However, we're going to need to change a little bit because part of the problem lies in all of our agreement that there's a whole certain class of people that we all need to throw away. We were all, well, I wasn't really, but a great deal of people are okay with the idea of let's round up all of the worst and get rid of them. There is too many people that are okay with that. We shouldn't be thinking that way. Maybe we round up the worst of the worst, but we do it by finding out who is in trouble, who's got problems, who needs help. So we do it from a spirit of trying to understand what's wrong with us so that we can get better. That's different from let's round up all the worst of the worst and dispose of them. It's okay to put them in hellholes in El Salvador, but it's not. It's not. And the very spirit of that, if we were looking for where the problems are so that we could help people, so that we could find out what would make their lives better, so that they could carry on in a more peaceful and kind, well, we need to understand who we are. We need to understand who we are and what creates these energies that give us such problems. Right now, these energies, these people who are angry and frightened and resonating with others who are angry and frightened. And quite frankly, we have now people squaring off on two sides, both of them angry and frightened on both sides. Now, one side believes that it's okay for them to be and react this way because they are obviously correct. The libtards, I'm a libtard, we are obviously correct. But the problem is that the polarity is actually what the problem is. It's the polarity. And so what is going to fix this is the soothing of the polarity. And so you have to think about what causes the polarity and all of that. I can see too much of my own head and not enough is coming out of my own mouth. So forgive me. I'm sort of channeling. I am two selves. I am a macro self and I'm a micro self. And my macro self knows what's going on. Your macro self knows too. And my macro self um, is interested in all of us harmonizing with one another. getting along, like being cooperative components to each other's ventures. My venture will be a cool little eatery on the corner of X and Y, and you can raise the cows down the street in a kind, loving way, making amazing milk and cheese that I get to serve in my restaurant. And we're good friends, and our children play together, and they're gonna get together and have great ideas for other businesses. And this is what makes the world go round, our cooperation with one another. And it is what is making the world a way different place than it used to be. People don't have a strong enough appreciation for how hard life used to be, and for how hard life could be again, and how hard life is in pockets of the world where where the organization has broken down, supply chains have gone away, people are they're killing each other and destroying each other because of the gods of chaos that they don't understand. They don't understand what has created this, why Shiva keeps rising up and destroying that which we have created. And here in the United States, we had some things that we were very proud but they had threads in them of these other energies that we didn't understand. What created them were out of alignment intentions when the institutions were laid down in the first place. Now, some of our beloved institutions, they go back 100 years. They go back more than 100 years. They go back to John D. Rockefeller, who was considered a philanthropist. He was also a Gilded Age billionaire type, um, a a I'm not an expert on John D. Rockefeller, but I know that he did a few things. He was somewhat responsible for setting up some institutions at the beginning of the 20th century that had to do with modern medicine. The institutions of that trained doctors, and the laws that supported um, the bringing to market of pharmaceuticals, and the laws concerning the vivisection industry, and what was legally required, the testing that had to be done with pharmaceuticals in order to be able to bring them to market. And then if there was something wrong, well, I did my due diligence, and so you can't come after me legally. The X number of animal tests were done, and blah blah blah, and this and that. And the whole intention at the beginning was he's investing also in pharmaceutical laboratories that ultimately put out chemistry that's making him and his foundations and stuff money. I mean, he puts into place a kind of network of systems that have at the heart of it some good intentions and some wrong beliefs and assumptions, and some other incorrect and out of alignment um, intentions. And then these institutions grew for 100 years. And the problem with them is that there was a lot of baby woven into this bathwater. But the weight of the bathwater from these incorrect intentions at the founding of these institutions was kind of a problem. our beloved institutions were not serving everybody. And our assumptions about medicine and the nature of reality and health and the optimal way for humanity to find its healthiest self was not being fully served with our medical institutions. And they were starting to they were atrophying in places where they were not flexible. They weren't evolving. They were atrophying in places, and some of those things that couldn't or wouldn't shift had to shift from a catastrophic event. And what is the catastrophic event that we got this time? It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the catastrophic event. We had another catastrophic event that happened 5 years ago. It was COVID, and it jarred some other things loose. Um, there are different kinds of catastrophic events. There was a world war that happened last century, a world war, parts one and two. And I don't believe we're going to have another world war because I don't think you're going to have a enough of the world believing in this strategy um, to make it a go anymore. You'll have so many hands stopping. The few that want to participate are going to be stopped by the ones who are going to say no, no world war. You know, we're going to have some minor skirmishes. This president is going to drop a few bombs in places, and people are going to rise up and scream no. And he's not going to have the American people behind him, as we're so happy that he's conquered the Sudetenland, or Czechoslovakia. Oh yay, he conquered Czechoslovakia. That's so exciting. That was easy. This is gonna be a cakewalk. It's not gonna happen like last century. We didn't understand Holocaust last century. But humanity understands it this time, and there may be Holocaust deniers out there. There are cells in the body that haven't gotten the word, and that's okay. That's okay. Humanity has not forgotten the Holocaust. Now, from my perspective, I want to help humanity make their way from Holocaust to synchronicity, because I think that's the spectrum. That's the spectrum of experience. And it's very possible that I am driven this way because I was born in 1960. In some way, shape, or form, I was involved in World War II, probably. And I am part of this project, this ongoing project of humanity to understand who we are, what we're doing, what we're about, in order to form a more perfect union of humanity across this globe, so that the systems that we build can serve us all. As we become more and more people, we can dependably produce food that feeds humanity and doesn't kill Mother Gaia. We can understand how to recycle our waste and understand how to communicate effectively with one another and harmoniously to exchange thoughts and ideas and goods and services with one another in brotherhood. This is not a zero-sum game. That's actually, if you want to boil it down to the fundamentals, the biggest problem with our current administration is they're playing reality as though it's a zero-sum game, and it isn't. In order for me to win, you do not have to lose. And as a matter of fact, if I'm playing it that way, it's limiting the whole field's ability to win, 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 win. Because in actual fact, we can play this like a win-win game. I win, you get what you want, I get what I want. We all, are stronger because of it. But what's happening is that the United States in this moment is being cut out. But I listened to something yesterday, I think, that's kind of making me think that it's not the worst thing because some channels sort of got calcified into an assumptive, a presumption of going with America. And they were ossifying. We all supply chains and desire and who and what and how everyone is working with everyone else needs to be more balanced, more flexible, more interactive, more aware, more built on and based on brotherhood and reality and truth and humanity. And there were places where we weren't, and we needed to be taken down a peg. And this Trumpy phenomenon thing, we need to own it. It's not an us versus them thing here either. We've got to own sick, demented grandpa. We elected him. Yeah, it was less than 50% of the vote, but do you know how many millions of votes less than 50% of the vote still is? And there are still people that hang with him, even in the face of, watching him the way he is. The thing is I think that what we have to do is we have to open up our compassion to this moment. And I don't mean just compassion because he's obviously a train wreck and he is obviously wrecking he's walking the wrong way through the dining room and knocking all the plates off the tables and the pictures off the walls. He's kicking the dog as he goes. He's slapped the little kid. He's poked, his finger in the eye of so and so, but he in a way he does not know what he's doing. He's very mentally ill. And he has been for his entire life. Now he's got dementia now, and so he is displaying the worst part of himself. But he is humanity displaying the worst. This is a psychosis that humanity gets into. Carl Jung called it authoritarian psychosis. Paul Levy calls it Wetiko. Wetiko comes from, it's an old Native American term, and it referred to a kind of psychotic personality form that the Native Americans noticed. They also noticed that the white man seemed to, this was a chronic illness in the white man. And what it is it is a separation of head and heart. It is a lack of coherent communication going on between your head brain and your heart brain. And you in yourself are a split person. And in your splitness, now your projection, as you project out to the world, it is now split. And you see an us versus them. You see two sides. You see a polarity now that you created in your own self. This is what the disease is. And the answer is not to find all the people on the other side of this split and destroy them, and then that's fixed. But it isn't fixed because this is something that lies in the seed and heart of human psychology. This is part of our design. We've got to understand this design so that we can rise above it and see past it and see who we really are and what's really going on around us, and quit going upstream, flowing the wrong direction in absolute chaotic disharmony, destroying everything as we go. We want to flow with the stream. We don't want to flow against it. When you flow against it, you are Shiva. You are the demon. You are Loki. bringing it down, because there are threads of misalignment in the construction of the systems to begin with. They have to be built in alignment. They have to be built in alignment with who and what we really are. And then they will last. Now that Reich is going to last 1,000 years, but it's not going to be a Reich. It's going to be a full-on liberal democracy, a liberal social democracy, with each and every individual free to do what they want to do, and no one having any power to come in and force them to be anything else, reorder them. You do not want anybody to have the power to come in and reorder the field, especially reordered from a misaligned position. President Trump is highly misaligned, very, very misaligned. He doesn't, what does that mean? Well, he is two selves. We are all two selves, and his two selves are not in alignment with one another. Now, in a higher sense, he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing, because we don't know ourselves, and he is providing a perfect illustration of everything I'm going to be talking about. Well, him, and there's everything is an illustration of it. Once you realize what you're looking at, then history becomes an illustration of it. Current events become an illustration of it. Your own life becomes an illustration of it. Your national politics becomes, your human relations of all sorts become an illustration of our nature, our design, how we are interacting with one another from a knowledgeable or ignorant position of our nature and what we are about. What are we about? What is the object of the exercise, everybody? There's a lot of people who have no idea what the object of the exercise is, so they spend their life tormenting each other. Tormenting their baby sister, or tormenting their spouse, or because they don't know what we're doing. What are we doing? What are we doing? As humanity, as an individual in the body of humanity, what am I doing? Well, you are humanity, first of all. I think every single one of us should be taught about our humanity. This is who we are as human beings. This is where we came from. This is our history. This is our design. This is our objective. This is our mission statement. What is our mission statement? I think our mission statement is, first, we need to know ourselves. But our true mission statement is that we need to find our sustainability. We need to find our joyful sustainability. Right now, we are not in a state of sustainability. We cannot persist in our big ag, our large measures of agriculture, combined with our growing populations, cannot sustain the ecosystems on planet Earth in this moment. The way our systems are designed, we can't keep doing it next year and 100 years from now and 1,000 years from now. We have to keep shifting because we haven't reached sustainability yet. I think that's, first of all, finding a way to sustainability. That's a big number one objective. Joyful sustainability, making that sustainability joyful for every human being as much as possible. I think that's another good object of the exercise. I think that's a fabulous one. We are all cells in the body of humanity. And each and every one of us, actually what we need is, we need freedom, we need health care, we need food and shelter, clean water and clean air. And if we had all of those things, along with a little bit of information, I should cop this way because my microphone's over here. We need a little education about our design, our nature, and then we need to just be allowed to get on with it. So I claim that our dual nature is responsible for our emotions. How does that work? Well, your greater self is not ever in a state of negative emotion. Your larger self isn't worried about anything, doesn't blame anybody else, is not jealous of anybody, um, is not bored. Um, our higher self, all of those emotions, those are negative emotions. What negative emotions, excuse me, come from is a lack of resonance between your two selves. So your greater self wouldn't have any reason to have any negative. There's nothing negative. She has been, let's think about what your source self is. Your source self is vibrationally in touch with all information all the time. That's what source is. Source is this field of quantum particles. What's a quantum? A quantum is a Planck. One of the quanta is a Planck. And that Planck is the tiniest frequency that you can have in this density space, in this density universe, in the setup of this universe, whatever you want to call universe, capital A, our universe, this universe. Now there are many, many universes. There's a multiverse of multiverses. Every Planck flinging off of the density of some very dense universe hitting a um, a space of less density is going to into a big bang and create a universe. That's how universes are created. That's how our universe was created. Um, that universe is made of Plancks, and a Planck is the tiniest frequency because the universe is made of frequencies. There's the frequency is that's the whole thing. It's one, and then all of the particles, which are pieces of it, which are Plancks. That's what a quantum is. And that's what the quantum field is made of, and that's what you are made of. You are made of this Planck field. And the interesting part, you're made of atoms as you sit in your physical shoes. As I stand here or sit here in my physical butt, I am made of physical atoms, and those atoms are filled with protons, and those protons have a little spinning field of this ether. Every one of these protons is a little black hole, and you could spell that HOLE or WHOLE. They're a little integer of wholeness, reflecting the information of all the rest of the universe. And what that implies is right here where you stand, you don't have to go anywhere in order to have all the information of the universe. Everything you need to know is right here with you. And if you would understand a bit about your physical and spiritual design, you could go a long ways in this world getting what you want, and we as humanity could go about the business of getting what all of us want. Peace on earth, goodwill towards men, freedom, justice, and liberty for all humanity, for every human being. Every human being should have some access to some form of healthcare. Every human being should have some access to some form of food, shelter, life support of some sort. And We take from humanity this life support, and we owe back to humanity our authentic self. Whoever we are. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel compelled to get into my office at 5 o'clock every morning and start getting ready to do this little discourse. I haven't gotten the impulse yet quite to change the names on the videos, so that I can actually get an audience, because I don't really have an audience. But that will come as I get stronger and more sure about what I'm saying, about who we are and what we are doing, and what's the very meaning of being a member of humanity. It is up for question right now. In my country right now, my very government believes that it is qualified to decide who are the good guys and who are the bad guys, and we're going to round up all the bad guys and we're disappearing them. We're disappearing. We'd just make them go away from here, but y'all seem to object to that, so we're just flying them to other places. And the reason that these are the places where it's interesting to think about the cases of law and where the rubber is hitting the road on this, is because this is it, people. This is our government getting ready to develop. And that big, beautiful bill has allocated billions of dollars towards these kinds of projects, the disappearing projects, more ICE, more facilities, more detention facilities, because if you think you've got to get rid of X number of people, you've got to have the machinery and the equipment and the infrastructure to do it. And that's what they're doing. And so the question is ripe right now. What does it mean to be a part of humanity? Who are we? Who are we? I'll tell you who we are. We are divine, um, vibrational creatures in a vibrational universe, and there is no separation between us. Between the brown and the white and the black and the human and the non-human and the live and the not alive, there is no separation between us. There is one life. There is one universe. There is one God, and He is us, and she is us. Wow. It's really cool. And each and every one of us, if we are here because the Creator has brought us here. And so, what are we supposed to do? Understand yourself and know what your mission is. What is your mission? Well, I'll tell you what your mission is. Line your two selves up with one another and find out what your mission is. How can you tell if your two selves are aligned? Well, the biggest symptom that you have when your two selves are in the same room, in the same space, looking in the same direction, thinking the same kind of thoughts. The biggest symptom is you feel good, you feel safe, you feel okay, you feel satisfied, you feel worthy, you feel aligned. It feels like peace, it feels like ease, it feels like allowance. It feels like live and let live, by the way, people. Anybody who thinks it feels like the wind of battle, or it's not that. It is peaceful. It's a stillness. And when you get still enough, your internal mirror, because you have a mirror in there, between your two selves, there's the mirror. When you get still, it's like both of your minds are a mirror. One is a tight constriction to a very small, focused place, and the other one is a very wide mirror that's picking up all the information. The other one is a constriction. It's a microscope. They're both apertures of perception. When you manage to get your two apertures pointed in the same direction, that feels so freaking good. And so the answer actually to all of this is don't look outward for this, because the outward, you got to look inward, because you're a projecting mechanism. And until you go in and look at the projector for a minute, all of your projections outward are fooling you if you think that they have to do with something out there and not something in here. It's all inside. You got to go in and look at your projector for a few minutes. And then you will realize the relationship between what is inside of you and what you're looking at out there. Because there is a relationship and there isn't out there. It's just, you need to understand how to read that out there. You know, if you don't go in and re-examine your beliefs about yourself and the world, because your beliefs are forming the structure of the thoughts that you and your analytical shoes are having. That's what's, your beliefs are causing the thoughts that your smaller self is having. And so if you're having a chronic problem with all of your thoughts keep taking you down dark rabbit holes, then your problem is actually the beliefs you're holding. Not so you need to go in and re-examine your beliefs. Quit just jumping down the rabbit holes. I'm here to testify that those dark negative holes, there's no bottom to them. You want to get to the bottom of that negative thing, there is no bottom to it. You will end up at the end of it, drowning your 5 children, to save them from the horror that the world is, if you go there. Because your consciousness mechanism can magnify the horror of the world until it will drive you mad. But it has to do with you get your dark self into an infinity mirror loop, and then all of a sudden the whole world and all of history looks like the most insane, twisted nightmare. Why do we even bother? But see, that is an error in your perception caused by a misuse of your own equipment. Why do we have such bonkers equipment that has to be consciously aligned in this way? The reason we do is because somebody freaking created us. We're a genetically modified organism. And that's why we're so freaking rarefied. That's why we need to have a user's manual explaining to us how our equipment works, so that we don't just pop off on our negative emotions and, in a reactive way, and cause more damage than good by not realizing how it works. So how does it work? Well, because you're only in alignment when you feel good. You have to feel good when you address the problems of the world. Now, that's a very tall order. How do you feel good when you're addressing the problems of the world? Well, I'm finding it possible by understanding that the problems of the world are step one. And if we would just understand step 1, 2, 3 and allow step 3, we're already freaking there. But people don't understand it. They aren't doing their conscious creating properly. They are creating by default because they don't understand their own damn equipment. And that's why I feel compelled to do this little show. Who am I? So that we can understand ourselves, so that we can get to a positive future, a better future. I am ashamed on some levels. In this moment, I am ashamed of being an American. I am ashamed of what my government is doing. I am ashamed of how my president is acting. It is just beyond humiliating in a way. And there are real life consequences happening as the world turns to other trade partners instead of my country. I want my country to be the trade partners, because when my country's the trade partners, then we get all the good trade, the good stuff, you know? But I also want humanity to be in alignment. I'm not just an American. As a matter of fact, I am not primarily an American. Primarily, I am a human. We are all primarily human. But then, I used to not like humans because I hated humans. Are you kidding? They're disgusting. They're filthy. They're mean. They're they're destructive. The things that they do to the animal kingdom and the wild spaces and each other. Oh man, I'm a student of the Holocaust. How can I not hate human beings? Of course I hate human beings. But you know what? I have discovered that the only reason that human beings are awful is because we don't understand ourselves. The actual truth of us is that we are amazing, wonderful, fabulous, creative, divine creatures. We are the otters of the universe. We are so amazing. And if we would understand our design, lean into our design, we are lovers, by the way. We are not warriors. We are lovers. And whenever we are warriors, the best warrioring that we do is in defense of that which we love. We do it for love. Our motivation needs to be love, and not just love of gold. Love of gold. There's myths that will get you to understand what the problem with that is. So, what is the problem with our dear leader? What is this? He's a malignant narcissist. But what that means is that he has an absolute inability to see something. There is something in this world that his psychology, his mechanism cannot see. He can only see his own projection. That's all he can see. And he is absolutely convinced that he is correct. And in a way, he is correct because he's saying, this is what I see. And of course, he's correct. That is what he sees. He cannot see us. He has no empathy for anyone else. He absolutely lacks the ability to think about us and feel our feelings. He only feels his own feelings, and he can't really feel his own feelings. He doesn't have many feelings. If you've noticed, he's very disconnected. His head and his heart are chronically disconnected from one another. It's a mental illness. We can hate him for it. But what happened is we don't understand ourselves. We did not understand this phenomenon. And an embarrassing number of us did not see through him. He was all about blame and grievance, which is why he didn't resonate with me, because I don't blame. I don't see my problems as being somebody else's fault. I see that my ease and comfort is many, 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 many people's fault. And I recognize that I want to keep that going. And I know that what life used to be like when there were few people and our systems were rudimentary. We didn't have big ag systems. Food was not plentiful. Clothing was not plentiful. You might wear, your one shirt until it was threads on your back because it took real money to buy real clothes. Now, you can probably get somebody to give you their old clothes. Now, they might not be very fashionable, but you aren't going to be wearing, cardboard boxes tied to your feet. Life is better than it used to be. And people who do not study their history have no sense of where we came from. They have no sense of the fact that it has gotten better and better and better. But we still have this nagging thing that keeps coming round every 80 years or so. What is this authoritarian psychosis? It's a vibrational thing that happens within us as we don't understand Wetiko, as we don't understand our negative side, our shadow self. What is our shadow self? I'll tell you what it is. It's the fact that we have two minds, and one of them is always looking forward, always taking what is and putting it together for possibility, looking forward, always collaborating with all of the field around for cooperative components and elements and ideas and desires, is fully integrated in the rest of the field. That's what your source self is. There is no basis for any negative anything from that perspective. It is the allness. There is no one to blame from that position because there is no one else. It's all. So your source self is never negative. So if you are thinking thoughts that are taking you into a negative space, the reason that's happening is because in this moment you are not resonating with your higher self. So what is interesting is it turns out that most people don't have very many thoughts that do resonate with their higher self. Do you have lots and lots of loving, kind, hopeful, integrated, positive ideas about the world and our future and the possibilities and where we're going and all of that, even in the face of knowing where we are in history? Well, I do, because I've been getting practiced thinking along with my inner being. And there's actually, what's going to save us is an understanding of who we are, an understanding of this divine matrix and how it functions. Because quite literally, it is the source of all energy. And we can tap into it, and it can be our source of energy. But the trick here is it cannot be our source of energy if we do not understand it. And when we understand it, we understand ourselves. And all of a sudden, we can't live the way we live now anymore. We can't act the way we act towards each other anymore from this perspective. We cannot throw each other away. We cannot hate even the haters. We understand the haters are actually broken, dysfunctional examples of their own equipment turned cattywampus on itself, you know? And now all of a sudden you don't see people the same way. And you realize that we don't need to be punished into better behavior. We need to be soothed into better behavior. We need to be loved back into better behavior. We're looking for love and order, not law and order. Although when we find our way to love and order, there's not going to be a lot of people breaking a lot of laws. But the laws, we aren't going to need laws quite the same way. When everyone is plugged into the wholeness as though it is their own body, you don't need laws. Your body does not need to have a law passed that no cells can develop cancer. And quite frankly, a law isn't going to stop that. What we need to do is understand ourselves, understand that we are all cells in the body of humanity with a capital H, mankind with a capital M. That is who we are. That is who she is. She is mankind. That covers all the genders, right? And take your pick. It's a spectrum. The genders are a spectrum, and quite frankly, both sexes contain both spectrums. Um, as a male, you have female hormones. As a female, you have male hormones. You have you. We're a blend. We're a blending of each other. Our chromosomes and our gene. There's just a tiny little bit that makes us the gender difference. We are a spectrum, and so we shouldn't be so binary about that, and so obsessed about let everyone and everything be who they are. God created all of us. What we need to do is not get people to be a specific something else. We need to help people tag appropriately into their source-based aspect, because it is that aspect of themselves that understands how to blend with the rest of the field harmoniously. If you are if you are in harmony with your higher self, you are in harmony with the rest of the field. If you are crossed energy to yourself, you are crossed energy to the order and flow of the field around you. That's why the world doesn't want you around when you are disorderly, when you are sorting out on your negative self and being a big chaotic ball of Shiva energy. Why do people not want you around? And you go, it's because I'm too much. I'm too much. I must not be worthy. And then it just sinks you deeper and deeper into this place where you think you are not worthy. And the very opposite is the problem. The thing, what the world needs you to do is to know your worthiness. But where you become um, a part of the harmony of the field, as opposed to being an element of the discord of the field, is when you line yourselves up. Your two selves, your personal two selves. You have two selves. So, who am I? Who am I? Very good question. Where am I in the discussion? Oh, I am an hour and 12 minutes. Oh my goodness. I'm doing better and better at getting longer and longer without even thinking about it. Who are we? Who are we? Who am I? Excuse me. So that brings us back to the question, because there's a whole lot of people who are like, okay, it's all well and fine who we are, but I don't know how to be. I don't know what to do with that. I'm sitting here. I don't know what to do for my job. I don't know how to feed my kids, or maybe I don't have kids. I don't know how to feed myself. Or maybe I do. Maybe I'm fed, but I'm bored, or whatever your problem is. I don't know who you are, and I don't know what your problem might be. But the answer, whoever you are, I know that this is the answer, because it doesn't matter who you are. This is the answer. You have to line your two selves up. I couldn't possibly imagine what excites you, what you want out of life. What you have to contribute to this world. I have no idea. It's likely the outer reaches of it are something that I haven't even begun to imagine yet. It's so amazing what you could be doing. I have no idea. So I have no specific advice for any individual other than know your own equipment. Understand when you have negative emotion, what it actually means. It means that you and your larger self in this moment are disagreeing with something. Now, your greater self has a perspective that is correct. There is not, it is reality based. It is, she is also not just looking at angels or, gazing lovingly into the eyes of God. That's not what your inner being is doing. She is looking at all of the components like a buffet of ingredients of things that I could use to do fun things in the world, that I could fulfill my life, and or I could do things I want to do to create abundance, to create relationship, to create food or beauty or joy or fun or. That's what she's looking at. She's looking at the ingredients and imagining the possibilities. What are you doing? It is very likely that you have become transfixed by some specific piece of the material puzzle. And since you are a reality-based creature, you are focusing very hard on that one piece of negative stuff that you really do not like. And you're trying to figure out something. Well, that's all well and fine, and I do that intentionally a little bit with politics and stuff. I go zap myself with it because I'm not. On the one hand, I do recognize that there is a material reality that we are playing out right in this moment, and from certain angles, I do not like what it feels like to be an American in this moment. I do not like my government, the shape of it, the spirit of it, the philosophy of it. It's wrong. And it helps illuminate for me that what the actual problems, the problem that we have on the planet today is a philosophical one. It's a problem that emerges from us not understanding our own equipment, spiritual slash physical, emotional, psychological, all of that. We don't understand ourselves. We do not understand this divine matrix that we are embedded in, that we are a part of, that we are made of. And to that end, I would like to serve humanity as a channel to some matter-of-fact information about ourselves. Just matter-of-fact stuff to help us make it to the future that we are really ultimately looking for. Synchronicity, full freedom, justice, and community for the whole of humanity all across this planet. We need to have one human understanding about who and what we are. And with that, and one last cough, I will leave you for the day. I'm going to post this because I want to share this with my daughter. I don't expect anyone else is going to watch it. If you happen to stumble across it, you must indeed be very blessed. And if you stayed to the absolute end, I don't know who you are, but I think I need to know who you are because I don't know why you would have, but you must be very special to my vision if you stuck around all the way until this sentence. But in any case, until next time, world, whether I have any specific listeners or whether it's all just theoretical and I am in the teaching school, learning school, if I'm still in school, so be it. But until next time, take heart. Put your brain and your heart together in the same place and see what happens. Do your best. Until next time, there's another way to say that. May the source be with you.